The random number calls me. It's Ja Rule. He told me about a tech and media entertainment platform called Fyre. They had reached out to me because of some of the people that I was hanging out with.
Selena Gomez, Bella Hadid, Gigi Hadid.
They're very good friends. It was all like real friendship.
How do you start a fashion company from scratch and grow it to the point where it's a multi-million-dollar company?
Because it was like, oh, I'm onto something. If these guys are coming after me, like, they're nervous about this.
We can find your brand at retailers across the country.
Saks Fifth Avenue, Neiman Marcus, Nordstrom, UK, Japan.
Tell me about what everyone's wondering, the Fyre Festival.
Yeah. I remember like one of the Bahamian police officers coming over to me like, Sam, I don't think it's safe for you. Like, I think you should get out of here. And I was like, okay, I'm out. This was the experience that taught me exactly how not to run a business. There's so many moments on my own journey and I'm like, is this realistic anymore? Like, I need to start making real money. My plan B is make plan A work. Like, I will not quit until it works.
I don't think I've ever had a guest with a career quite like Samuel Krost. Guys, this was a crazy episode. Samuel's the founder of Krost, New York, a thriving fashion brand that's become an icon in the industry. In this episode, we talk about how Sammy went from studying at NYU on the pre-med track to interning at Onia and Helmut Lang, two major names in menswear apparel, before a surprise phone call from Ja Rule landed him as one of the earliest executives at Fyre Media. Yes, that Fyre. He opens up about what it was like inside the company during the infamous Fyre Festival and how he channeled that experience into building Krost. We also dive into the brand itself, how Krost went from just a concept to being worn by celebrities like Bella Hadid and Selena Gomez and sold in retailers like Saks, Bloomingdale's, and Nordstrom. Before we start, I'm Victor Braca, and Momentum is where we dive deep into the stories behind business success, but enough about me. This was an incredible episode with Samuel Krost. Let's get into it. This episode is sponsored by Advanced Solar Solutions, but more on them later. Samuel, what is it?
Sammy or Samuel, but Sammy.
Not Sam?
Not Sam.
No one calls you Sam? Or?
No, Sammy or Samuel. When I went to school, I tried to reinvent myself as Samuel. And then my friends from home would come and they would hear people call me Samuel and they would just start laughing.
I guess with that, we'll jump into it. Samuel Krost, welcome to Momentum.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having me in your beautiful home. And we have a great setup over here with the pool in the background. It's very nice. You've built Krost into an icon in the fashion world and, you know, a recognizable brand in many corners of the earth. And you can be found in major retailers. And, you know, I want to sort of use that to use that part of your story to get to the beginning. I know you grew up in Deal, New Jersey, small town. Your parents both worked as doctors. And tell me a little bit about growing up for you, how business and entrepreneurship tied into that.
Growing up, it was education, education, education. Those were the only three words. But I come from a family of doctors. My grandfather is a Holocaust survivor, and he made his way to Ellis Island, went to Brooklyn College, bought a practice, went to dental school. My mother was a specialist endodontist. When my mother met my father, I think my grandfather said, at the time my father was in engineering school. And I think he said, if you're going to marry my daughter, you need to switch, professions. So I come from a family of doctors my whole life. So education was always incredibly important. But from an entrepreneurial standpoint, they own their own practice. They built their own practice from ground up. So it's very entrepreneurial, but more professional based.
That's cool. It's like a good blend of entrepreneurship and professionalism. Usually they clash, so it's cool how they were able to work in hand in hand with each other. Did they have the same practice?
My mother was a partner in a separate practice, and then my grandfather, my uncle, my father partners in a practice. My grandfather retired just recently. My brother joined that practice, but as it relates to entrepreneurship, I think when I describe my father specifically, I always described him as like a physical laborer. Like he works physically for his money.
In a way, it's like a more old-fashioned way of making money.
That's what I mean, yeah, with his hands.
Right. So was it ever in the cards for you to become a doctor? I should really revise it. I should ask, was it ever in the cards for you to not become a doctor?
I'm 32 years old. My business is almost 6 years old, and I speak to my grandfather every morning, and he still tries to convince me to go back to school and take the sciences and switch. And Alphonse, my brother-in-law as well, everyone in the family. But it was very much, I believe, assumed growing up that I would go into the family practice.
So take me into high school for you, or even we can go as far as elementary school. Take me into the first time that you identified as an entrepreneur.
Growing up in Deal, it was about school and it was sports. I was an athlete my whole life. My father went to college on a full scholarship, D1. He was my coach my whole life. I was very much about my school and about sports. I was a very good student. I was a very hard worker. Work ethic was instilled in me from a very early age. But in terms of what I thought I wanted to do, I wasn't entirely sure. I had gone to NYU. I don't know if I'm going to skip ahead, but growing up here, it was just like, it was deal boy, you know the term. So before leaving to NYU, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but the path was assumed that I was going to become a doctor. So I know, congratulations to you. You're starting NYU Stern next week. I applied early decisions to the College of Arts and Sciences, which is the school that I guess, if you're going to become a doctor or a lawyer or a specific profession, one that requires, school. But I had done my first semester in the College of Arts and Sciences. I had taken very difficult courses. Still, my freshman fall semester was like the worst grade that I had ever gotten, throughout the rest of college.
And so you were on the pre-med track?
Pretty much, right? But not...
Right, like whatever that means in NYU, right.
The first step in going pre-med is going to College of Arts and Sciences. That's where you take the sciences. That's the school that you would take the sciences. And I remember in the end of the second semester, because I had switched schools by my sophomore year, I called my father. I'll never forget where I was inside of Washington Square Park, and I said, I love you, but this isn't for me. And he said, my dad has a saying, he feels like he's never worked a day in his life because he truly, truly loves what he does. And he said, I want the same thing for you. That's my only wish for you. If you go in my way, you'll be taken care of. But if you don't, he didn't say you're on your own, because obviously I have not been on my own up until today. But, he couldn't really help me. But at the end of the end of the spring semester of NYU, I switched from the College of Arts and Sciences into what is now SPS. I think it was a SCPS when I was...
School of Professional Studies, right.
Continuing professional study. It was real estate and sports management. And I grew up an athlete. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll use sports as a means of learning business.
So before we get into switching NYU schools, which we'll get into, when your father told you that, not that you would be on your own, but that he wouldn't be able to offer his resources and connections and his practice to help you, did that make you nervous about what you were going to do as a career?
My parents are the two most incredible. It's my biggest blessing in life. Now my wife is, and my in-laws too. But growing up, I have the most supportive parents. I have the best relationship with my parents. They truly are my best friends. It did not scare me. I think there's like some people who don't go into a family practice, to try to prove to themselves. Nothing to do with that. Like absolutely nothing. I wish, I could. So a lot of times on my journey, I was like, I wish, but it didn't. It was all about him wanting me to love what I do and have that same feeling that he has every single day that he wakes up.
So you switched schools within NYU with that vision or the goal to do something that you love. What does sports management mean? Is that like business through sports? Is it sports through business?
Business through sports. But you also learn a lot about like the NCAA and the
Right.
the backbone of college sports, I would say.
Was there ever a passion for that's a good rhyme, passion for fashion. Was there ever a passion for fashion that you had throughout your life, or really did that really develop later on?
I think growing up, I always cared about how I looked, how I dressed. That was always important to me. And then switching in to sports management, there was always one professor that people would warn you about. She was very tough. And she came in first, this is like my first semester in that school, and she really like looks you up and down, you know, in like kind of like a rude way. And she said, okay, look how you're sitting, your posture, look how you're dressed, who you're sitting next to, how you speak, how you are a brand. And that was like kind of like my like light bulb moment, I would say, is that, you know, everyone is their own walking brand. And you have to be aware of that. It's important. And at that time, I still didn't necessarily know what I wanted to do, but my degree within sport management required you to have a significant amount of internship hours, right? It's as if it's like taking a course. So I had to start thinking about what I want to do for internships. And I started interviewing at, you know, some of the places that they would introduce you to, and nothing was really entirely interesting. And I wanted to work in fashion for some reason. I think it's all because I always cared about product. I always cared about luxury product. I had an affinity for it. And I told them I wanted to take my internship in fashion, but all the kids were working at ESPN or Fox Sports or MSG, the New York Yankees, etc. So I had to write a few-page essay to the dean explaining why I wanted to take my internship in fashion, and they ultimately allowed me to do so.
This episode is brought to you by my friends over at Advanced Solar Solutions. If you've been thinking about solar but you've been hesitating, this is your moment. Federal solar incentives expire at the end of the year, December 31st, and once they're gone, they're gone. It almost sounds too good to be true, guys. $0 down, a locked-in low monthly rate, and even a new roof included. Advanced Solar Solutions is fully in-house. That means no middlemen, no headache, no hassle. Their dedicated team replaces your entire roof and installs your system to the highest standards, and every project is protected by a 30-year third-party insurance plan covering parts, labor, and roof leaks. And it gets even better, 20% of all profits support people learning in Kollel, so you're protecting your wallet and you're doing good at the same time. The clock runs out December 31st. Call now, get your install scheduled, and take control of your energy costs today, guys. To inquire, text a photo of your electric bill to 347-455-8430. Again, that's 347-455-8430 to start saving on your electric bill today. Back to the episode. So that first internship, where was that?
Onia, men's, at the time it was just a men's luxury swimwear brand that has now drastically grown into a very big business, very successful business.
And so today, Onia is a large company. Was it a large company back then? Was it more of a startup?
I wouldn't call it a startup. I mean, seeing the way or the size of our business now, I would say it's quite similar to when I started there. What I loved about it, and I think that a lot of how we run our business, I pull a lot of similarities to their business. But they had Onia, which is more of the front-facing, call it full price, premium department store, premium independent distribution for men's swimwear. But then they also had a brand called Trunks, which is more like mid-market. And then they had a brand called Teal Cove, which is more mass market off price. And that to me is definitely a model that we have replicated in our business today. And they introduced some ready-to-wear pieces, linens, French terry cloth, etc. So there were some ready-to-wear pieces. And now, I mean, I know they have women's wear. I know that they've acquired different brands. So yeah, it's now a big business.
No,
and there's still a great relationship with both of the founders.
So you joined Onia, you were an intern. What exactly was your role?
What was my role? I think I started as a sales intern.
Sure.
I think I started as a sales intern, but my grandfather had always taught me just make yourself invaluable, right? I think it's exactly what I tell interns that start with us is if you leave, you want me to feel it. You want to be like I wish Sammy was here. And there was like some turnover there at the time, and I just remember like being the only like face that like had remained, and I had a great relationship with the founders. And I was like, I remember going into the office being like, okay, like it's my turn like to go. But I had other experiences throughout my professional career starting in college, but it was my first I think my first full-time real job after college. It had turned into a full-time job
So
during college.
First,
it's an internship for a few months, and then they offered me a position. So I worked throughout college, and I was able to adjust in sport management my courses from 6 to 9 p.m. So I would go to work 9 to 5:30. I would make it to college, do college 6 to 9:30. So it was an intense schedule during college.
So at this point at Onia, were you rising the ranks, or did you remain in sales? Did your position stay the same?
I was in sales. I was a sales assistant and sales executive, but it was more of an incredible opportunity for me because I feel like that was the experience that allowed me to learn the scope of the business. So focus in sales, but was doing merchandising, would work with production, definitely saw a lot of operation. So it allowed me to understand the scope of the business, or at least I thought I understood the scope of the business.
You were doing college until 9 p.m. every day. Were you ever going to drop out, or were you always going to stay in?
That's not an option in my family.
Right.
Yeah.
And the reason I find it interesting is because most people would just go all in on one thing, whether it be school or work. You were working a full-time job and essentially working full-time school, right? 3 hours a day of school, 6 to 9 p.m. every day is a lot. So the fact that you kept both is unique.
It was an intense schedule for 3 years, but
3 years. Oh, wow. I was thinking maybe you did that for 6 months or a year. Wow. Okay.
sophomore, junior, senior, but I had a break. I studied abroad my spring semester, my junior, so I didn't do it then. But while I was abroad, I got a call from Andrew Rosen. He's like my Michael Jordan of contemporary menswear. He's the founder of Theory. He bought Helmut Lang, a company called Link Theory, which was acquired by Fast Retailing, which is a Japanese company that owns Uniqlo. So it was a big corporation.
You said you got a call from him?
And to tell me that someone on the team had mentioned my name, and they were relaunching the men's division of Helmut Lang, which had been discontinued. And Helmut Lang is, big name in the industry. You familiar with it?
I mean, I've heard of it through researching you, but yeah, I've heard of it before.
It's a known brand.
Yeah.
And I flew from Spain back to New York for a day. I took the interview and I went back.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then that summer I started at Helmut Lang. I left Onia. And it was with the intention of, you use startup. I wouldn't say Onia was startup. Definitely not. It's a successful business at the time as well, but definitely not corporate. And I wanted to get that corporate experience to understand both sides of the pond and just get as much experience as I could during college as well. So then I started with Helmut Lang and I stayed there for 2 years as well. And then I think I had gone back to Onia for a very short stint. But I was doing sales when I went back, and I didn't want to do that.
You got a call from them.
Yeah, yes. During the time at Onia, you did a lot of trade shows, you did a lot of traveling, you did a lot of sales traveling. You meet a lot of people, and it's important to meet people. And it was during those, work experiences, work events that I had built some network within the industry.
So when you think about networking, I think networking as a term, it's thrown around a lot. Go to industry events and networking functions and whatever it might be. But for you, when you think about networking, is it something like methodical and strategic and planned out, or do you just try to maintain, X amount of connections or friendships or relationships in every industry? How do you think about networking?
I think my networking is social networking. I think that I don't want to upset my mom about my current stance on college, but if college taught me anything, it was networking and just meeting people, experiencing things. I think like I am who I am because of the experiences that I've been able to have. During I consider my college life all about more like my social growth. Up until I was 17, I lived in Deal. I lived just in Deal. I had no interest in leaving Deal. My brother loved the arts and sciences, and he would be in New York every weekend. I never wanted to go to New York. If my family was going to New York for a Sunday, I wasn't going. I had no interest. But he went to NYU as well. He didn't study abroad. He didn't dorm. I said, if I go to NYU, I'm going to study abroad and I'm going to dorm. We had a family place, like, very close to campus where he lived. And I thought, like, okay, if I don't like the dorm, we were just discussing this, I could go there. I never stepped foot in that apartment, not once. Dorming was the best decision I ever made in my life. And I was, my friends here are like the greatest human beings in the world. But I just had no other social, experience outside of the way in which I grew up in Deal. And that was big, I consider myself shy. I was coming home every weekend, like my first semester in college. And then, by the middle of the first semester, I clicked with like this group, who became brothers to me. And I looked at them, by the end of college, the same way that I had, looked at the guys I grew up with my entire life. And I was able to bring all those groups together, and then it just got bigger and bigger. This group led to the next group. And, my time at NYU was just about the people that I made, that I met. But the flip side of college is work. I worked throughout all of college. So I didn't retain a single thing that I learned, like in my class in college, like not one. I really don't. I think it was an issue. I was so studious. I was sitting in Bope's library. Like we lived in Bope's library, and I did incredibly well in school. I was dean's list every semester, got all those awards, but I didn't learn anything that, helps me with what I'm doing today. It was the social side of it, and it was working. Like I learned and grew through my work experiences.
So you got the call from, what was it, the CEO of Helmut Lang?
Yeah, he's CEO
Of the parent company.
CEO of the parent company, yeah.
And so you started working there. What was your position over there?
It was the same. It was like sales and visual merchandising.
Were you still in college, or was that after you graduated?
Still in college.
Which year of college were you in? Do you remember?
Senior.
So you're at Helmut Lang and you're still in college. What is the vision that you had for your life at this point? Like, you were on the fashion track. Did you have the end goal of that, you wanted to open up your own company? Did you want to rise the ranks in these corporate, larger companies? What was your goal?
At that point, no. At that point, it was more about getting as much work experience as possible. I think that I knew I was going to be able to maintain a full-time job at that point. But I was also, 20, 21?
Right.
I didn't have the answers at that point. It was more about just I wanted to get as much work experience, but I want to get all of the experience, like both ends of the spectrum, right? Not too long after, well, there's a big story that happened in between, that and the founding of Krost now, but and just understanding the corporate world, understanding smaller work environments, understanding different departments within the business, just like gaining as much as I could at that time.
So you were at Helmut Lang for how long?
Maybe like a little less than 2 years. Yeah, because all of this was by like the end of my freshman through the end of college.
This episode is brought to you by my good friends at Midwood Wine Merchants, right here on Coney Island Avenue and Avenue K, next door to Bagel Hole. Midwood Wine is proud to be our community's premier wine shop, and they're here to make sure you've got exactly what you need for the holidays. And now, through Sukkot, they're running an insane promotion, 15% off all wines, plus 20% off Dr. Medeb's full line. Enjoy the doc's legendary Chateau Valendrau for $275, The Cave for $85, or any bottle of Clase Azul 1942 or La Familia for just $139.99. They even have an intimate outdoor lounge where you can enjoy a cigar and a glass of wine. Oh, and the best part is they make it super simple. You can WhatsApp them directly at 718-338-7054 to ask about the selection, to place an order, to get recommendations, whatever it might be. So guys, don't forget to stop by Midwood Wine, our community's premier wine shop on Coney Island Avenue between Avenue J and Avenue K for all of your holiday needs. Let's get back to the episode. So you left Helmut Lang. I know there's like a lot of your story in between Helmut Lang and Krost. Tell me, where did you go? What were you doing?
I was contacted in Bope's library. I was on the 9th floor, and a random number calls me, and I answer it, and it's Ja Rule. You know Ja Rule? Or are you too young for Ja Rule? Ja Rule is like one of the bigger 1990s hip hop artists.
It's Ja Rule personally.
Yeah, it was Ja Rule who called me, and I was in Bope's library because I was studying for my GMAT at the time. Like right at the same time, I was thinking about going to get my MBA, and told me about a tech company that he was founding that was just received a sizable investment from some serious VC and angel investors. And he wanted to meet with me about a specific position within the company. Now, this is like 2016. So this is like very tech, like the beginning of tech, Silicon Valley. A lot of tech companies were starting then. And I was interested. And him and another person, his name is Billy, kind of wined and dined me for a week. Told me about a tech and media entertainment platform called Fyre, Fyre, that they were launching, and it was looking to democratize individuals' access to talent. So they were building an app. It was like an app craze at the time. That's like, what was happening. Everyone was trying to start apps at that time. And I had built, as I said, a good network like throughout my time in college.
So what does it mean to democratize access to talent?
You can go, I booked Ja Rule to go perform at people's bar mitzvahs.
Got it.
Like credited individuals, wealthy individuals can now, book talent directly through this app.
Okay.
And I had built a great network during college, and I know that they had reached out to me because of some of the people that I was hanging out with and people that they thought, that I had access to, and they were looking, for somebody to come on in, a founder capacity, executive position to deal directly with the talent on the app, bring talent onto the app, manage talent that was on the app, so on and so forth. And this was, like I said, it was like a very tech, a big time in tech. And I had built this great network, and I had all this other, fashion experience, which also, as crosses over with talent, in many capacities as well. And it was a great paying job. There was equity in it. It was at the height of tech, and I was like, okay, this was like the first real like post-college work gig. And I started to work at Fyre at that time.
So Fyre Media reached out to you. It's interesting because you weren't in the tech space from beforehand, but I guess, they reached out to you because of your network. Like you're saying, your connections, you had connections and close friendships with A-list celebrities. We're talking Selena Gomez, Bella Hadid, Gigi Hadid, so many others, and I guess that's the reason they reach out to you. A lot of people try to get into those circles of A-list celebrities and high-profile people. And for you, that ended up translating into a very high-paying job offer and a very prestigious job. How did you go about that?
I wasn't looking for it. The people that you mentioned, they're very good friends. It was all like real friendships. There's people that are at my family Shabbat dinners. And I think a big thing also, the age I was, I never crossed the line of business with them in any capacity. These were people that were just like part of our like everyday best friend group. And how that came about, I mean, it's just
They weren't business connections. They were just friendships.
real friendships. But it's still, yeah, I mean, the people that I knew had that, the fact that I knew certain people had opened doors for sure.
And so it opened the Fyre door.
Yeah, I was contacted because one of my best friends' aunts is a managing partner at WME, IMG. It's a massive talent agency that represents pretty much every big name that you can think of. And she had managed Ja Rule at the time, and Ja had asked her about somebody who may be good for the position, and that's how it happened. So, yes, relationships and networking lead to different things, and it's just a matter of, you know, understanding when there's an opportunity at the door.
So take me into your first few weeks at Fyre. What was your role over there?
What was it? Director of talent management,
Got it.
something along those lines.
You're still a young guy.
Yeah, I was 21.
Just graduated college.
Yeah, like first full time after Onia or after Helmut. I think I went back to Onia like during that summer, and then that fall I started at Fyre.
So we've all heard of the Fyre Festival. I know you were very involved in, obviously, the company at that time and planning the actual festival, as well as the media company that was, you know, in line with the festival. Was that controversy going on when you joined the company?
No, Fyre Festival was never a thing. The idea of Fyre Festival was to launch the official app. So we had built this app for 2 years. When I started, I was number 3 after the 2 founders. We had a CTO, so maybe I was number 4, and we built an engineering team that was, I don't know, maybe like 10 to 15 people within the first few months, that were based all over. We were headquartered in New York. We had real VC funding, and it was quite legit in the beginning, and ripping iterations of the app. So I basically was pitching talent on joining the app. And I remember within the first few months getting cease and desist letters from WME, CAA, UTA, all the big guys. And like, I'm young, so I'm like, oh, like, shit, I did something like wrong. Like, am I getting in trouble here? And then my perception quickly flipped, because it was like, oh, like, I'm onto something. If these guys are coming after me, like, they're nervous about this. So we continued to onboard talent, and we continued to sign specific deals with talent, convincing them to do a certain amount of bookings through the platform, because our business model was taking a commission on every booking. But I was doing all these bookings manually while working with the engineering team to understand the intricacies of the industry and relay this information over to the engineering team. So I was getting like the real data that was helping build the app itself, because you were talking about contracts and terms and payment terms and wires, and you know, there's a lot. There's waivers, liability. You know, we had artists that went like to a booking one time and caused a ruckus, and like, you know, we were going to get sued for it. So all this information, how to make this so seamless. And the idea of Fyre Festival was only because they needed a big idea to promote the launch of Fyre. So we were working off of a beta version of the app at the time, and the idea was April. I believe the festival was supposed to be in April, and that April was, you know, when we were ready to launch the official app. So it was about 2 years of a year and a half of work. Yeah.
So we'll get into the festival, which is obviously a very interesting topic, but I want to get into your story at Fyre for a second. I mean, like you said, like, you were number 4 at the company, number 3 and number 4. You were getting great experience with billing, contracting. You were dealing, I guess not in the most positive way, but you were dealing with these huge talent agencies, learning how to navigate business and things like that. Do you think the things that you learned at Fyre laid the foundation for Krost as it is today?
At Onia, Nathan Romano, incredible guy. When I started, the most annoying thing I remember him telling me to do, if I like asked him something, he'd be like, figure it out, or like Google it, right? I think he would say like Google it. It was like so annoying. It's like, you know the answer, just tell me so I could do it, you know? But it makes you very resourceful. And I think I'm bringing that up just because like in that business, I was very resourceful. I had to like learn things. There wasn't really anybody there to ask questions. I was excited about the opportunity. I was young. I was happy that I have like a new job. I'm kind of like hopefully building off of a good network that I had built. I'm in tech as well, which I said was like, you know, good to be in at the time. Obviously still is, but you know, it felt like it was like the beginning of it, or maybe it was the beginning of it for me. But you had to wear a lot of different hats. You had to do a lot of different things. Like, yes, I had the role, but like any startup, you know, even in my business today, everyone has their role, their responsibility, their job title, but don't join unless like you're willing and ready and able to like do 101 other things at the same time. You know, like you need to be able to get your hands dirty at all times. Like, so I think that's what the beginning stages of that company were. It was like, get your hands dirty. But I was also a very integral part because I was the one talking to talent, dealing with the customers as well, right? So like I was dealing with the people trying to book talent, then I'm dealing with the talent, and then I was an agent and a broker between buyer and talent. That's what I was doing. And then relaying all of that information from the user for the user interface, and then the back end for the talent space, right? Because there's two faces of the app. One that you, who want to book me for a event or a autograph signing or come to my kid's bar mitzvah, right? So you look at a certain user interface, but then the back end is entirely different. So I had to deal with both of those things. So yeah, I think, man, I haven't thought about this in so long. It's crazy.
Memories are coming back now.
I didn't think I would remember. But yeah, I guess it made me resourceful.
What was the vision for the app? Was it for people like Justin Bieber to get on, as well as lower caliber celebrities?
Anyone, really. Obviously, the bigger name, the bigger, you know, the booking fee would be, the bigger the commission would be. But it was democratizing access to talent. You know, it started because this guy Billy wanted to book Ja Rule for an event, and you know, like kind of the path that he went on.
Agent to agent.
And this guy was BS. That guy took the money. He didn't even know Ja, you know. So that's where the idea took the money. He didn't even know Ja, you know. So that's where the idea came from.
Tell me about what everyone's wondering, the Fyre Festival.
Yeah.
From an inside perspective.
Yeah, for me, it was...
Not from a scammer's perspective, just to be clear to the audience.
Yeah. What do you want to know?
Okay, it was a huge controversy. The idea for the event was a remote island, fly everybody out.
Yes.
Tell me what it was supposed to be.
You know what? It was... I didn't know the depths of what was happening until after everything blew up. And I'm talking about the fraudulent part specifically. What I will say, and I don't have the fondest of things to say about that guy at this point, but from the beginning, the intention was really to pull off a festival. One of the biggest learning lessons from this was you build it and then you market it. What he did was market it and then tried to build it. And that's really what happened. The intention was real. And he's a serial entrepreneur, but also a sociopath. But the intention was real, and that was what it was. We leveraged the access to talent that I had, and we flew. This should have been the red flag. We flew private to the Bahamas, I don't know how many times. And we had our own private island and discovered the island, purchased a land within the Exumas, had these really fun trips, and then decided that this was the perfect place to throw the festival, and brought talent out there on multiple trips. to shoot what became a very well-known promotional video. There was real teams behind this in the beginning. But what happened was when we went back with, and there was a production team that like had done Lollapalooza, that had done like serious festivals. So there was a team in place that was capable of pulling off the way in which they had originally marketed it. The issue became the budget. And once he saw that number, it wasn't going to be possible. And at that point, there was still only a few months left before the festival was actually planned to happen. And everyone had advised, like, just push it off a year. Like if you give yourself like the time to do this, this will happen. But no matter how many people advised him to postpone, to cancel, he didn't listen, and he did whatever he needed to do to get more money in to keep it going.
More hype.
Yeah. I mean, it was like hyped. I didn't realize how hyped it was. I was a young kid at the time too, For me, it was like fun. Like I was going to get to like the Exumas, like private with like my best friends. And, I had brought some of my personal friends into the project as well. So yeah, it was only a few months left, and he fired the one team that was actually capable of pulling the thing off. And then with only a few months left, tried to piecemeal individual contractors to put this thing together. And then when the promo video went out, the owner of the island where it was supposed to happen was not happy with the promo video because part of the history of the island where it was taking place was it used to be an in-between island for drug smugglers. It was Pablo Escobar's island. So there was a lot of history there. There was like his old planes that had crashed. There was the only island with a runway in the Exumas. Then he lost the island. So not only did the production team, who was capable of pulling it off, was let go because the budget became too high. Then they lost the island. Then he needed to find a new island. Then the only island he was able to do it was like the same time as like the busiest time on that island. It was a complete nightmare those last few months.
By he you're referring to Ja Rule?
No, I'm talking about his name is Billy.
Billy was the founder of the company.
Yeah. Ozzy Ja, the guy really had nothing. He didn't know anything. He was just like a face at the time. Yeah.
I don't know if there was one moment like people arrived at the festival and it sort of like, let's just say, wasn't as they expected.
Yeah.
So what does that look like for you? You're a young guy, and like up until that point, it had been a really exciting project that, the red flags didn't really stand out to you.
The red flags stood out the entire time. My life at the time was very stressful because while the festival became this real focus and priority, I still had to run Fyre Media. My primary role and responsibility within the festival was the lineup. And I would like to say that like the lineup and the stage were the two things that were actually like they were done correctly. But dealing with the agents of big artists, we were talking about bookings that were like well over 7 figures and negotiating those contracts and those terms. And, you see like talent riders, which means like, okay, like when they come, like this is what they expect to have there. And, we had booked Blink 182, but Travis Barker got in a plane crash, so he doesn't go on planes. So now we have to coordinate a yacht from Miami into the Exumas for him, and just like crazy things that you had to deal with. And payments, of course, were late. So I'm the one who's getting crushed from agents about payments, and also running Fyre Media at the time. So it was very stressful, but it was done. And then you asked about the day that people arrived. I had been to the Bahamas, I can't tell you how many times before the festival, the Exumas specifically. Never once did I see it rain. And this was straight Min HaShamayim. The night before people were meant to arrive, there was a hurricane, like a real hurricane. And even without the hurricane, it was not a fraction of what was marketed. You know, maybe there was gonna be some people that were in like these nice villas, like where I had been staying, you know, during our time there. But there wasn't enough capacity. There were so many things that were promised to all these celebrities and influencers. There was like a hurricane, like relief tents as like the tents. And then there was no sign of those tents after this hurricane happened. And for 3 days, everyone begged him to cancel, or at least get the messaging out prior to that. This is what it is going to be. We will give you a refund, or at least you know, hopefully people would, you know, respect that you told them the truth finally.
Right.
Wouldn't do it. And I think, like, I'm trying to remember the feeling, the emotions at that time. It's, you know, you have a sense of, you know, responsibility at that point to try to do what you can to make this thing work. But I, on my own, contacted every agent and I canceled every single act. I was coordinating these planes, these little propeller planes from Nassau to the island. So I had like all of these planes waiting to take talent. And after the hurricane, there's no way this thing was happening. And at that point, there was nothing anybody could do. It was too late. And whatever friends I had with me, I took these little tiny propeller planes from that island because it got dangerous because of how much money he had owed and promised to the local Bahamians on the island. And they weren't paid. And anybody that like had anything to do with Billy at the time, like, you know, you were connected to him in respect. And I remember like one of the Bahamian like police officers coming over to me like, Sammy, like, I don't think it's safe for you. Like, I think you should get out of here. And I was like, okay, like, I'm out. I had all these planes on standby. I took a tiny propeller plane from Exuma to Fort Lauderdale Airport.
All the way there. Wow.
Yeah, it was scary. And I got myself off of the island. And it was a tough experience. I remember my mother calling me, and I told her like what happened. And I remember her saying, "Do you want to speak to your father?" And when my dad got on the phone, I just remember like hysterically crying, you know, because you felt embarrassed, you felt guilty, you felt like you failed, you felt like it was your fault. It was like the first like low point in the professional career at that point. And it got a little crazier after that happened. It became global news, like global. There wasn't a country, I don't think, that didn't write about this, or a news station that this wasn't on. And you were like so close to it this whole time. And for the last 2 years, we had been building this app, and the team had grown to like 40 plus people and engineers. And because he had like commingled funds between like Fyre Media and Fyre Festival, because they were two separate entities, two separate teams, really no affiliation other than the name itself. But legally with fraud, I don't know the specificities of it, but they like took both businesses down because he had commingled funds, and everyone lost their job overnight.
Including you.
Yeah, of course. Done. Everything was done after that. And he had, you know, took personal funds of mine too. It was bad. It was bad. I remember coming home and I was like in my underwear. I think it was late at night, and I like walked into my kitchen right there, and there was like a private investigator there, and my dad and my mom, they were like, sit down. And they're like, tell him everything that happened. Like, he's gonna protect you. And I'm like, oh God, like I didn't understand.
What
like,
did you get yourself into, right?
I didn't know.
You were wondering, right?
I had no idea at the time. You know, he was very private when it came to like when the investors came into the office. You know,
Billy.
Yeah, he was very private about that. That was like the one meeting that like team wasn't in, because who knows what he was telling investors at the time. But then there was investors that like wanted to speak to the team about certain things, and he would like tell them like, this is what you should say and this is what, you know. So I remember a lot of people being subpoenaed to speak to the FBI. And like, I felt like I was like running. I ran Fyre Media. I'm like, why is the FBI not calling me? And I was in my New York apartment and I got this phone call. And it was like, this is so-and-so from the FBI. And I remember cracking up and being like, what took you so long to call? And she started hysterically laughing. And like within a week, I was in like the downtown, like federal whatever. And I was like in that like investigation room. And I had an attorney just because like I didn't know what was going on. And I spent like 9 hours straight in a room. And I thought it was like 30 minutes, but it was like a whole day. And that was a moment that that they showed me everything that he did. Because I ran Fyre Media, I ran all the bookings. So any money that came into the business came in through me. So I know exactly what we did. And I am an incredibly organized kid. Very, very meticulous. I have OCD problems. So organization like is my thing. So I knew every single account, every buyer, every artist, every deal, contracts, everything, individual folders, timing. And they like put this, and my stack of things was like, you know, like this big, right? It was like 2 years of booking. I think I did like 100 something bookings. They came in and they had like stacks this big. And for the first time, I realized what he did to get investment was he made fake bookings to inflate the value of the bookings that we had done and the revenue of the business. And he leveraged that to get investment. And if the festival didn't work out, that they were going to take equity in Fyre Media. And that's when I realized everything that had happened.
How do you bounce back from something like that? It wasn't like, obviously you didn't, you know, it wasn't your reputation that was damaged the most, but you were very involved.
I felt responsible because I had brought friends in to run certain parts of the business. There was talent that was in it that, like, you know, they didn't know what this was, but I'm like, no, do it. Like I'm involved in it. So there was a level of reputation that was in it. But I think it became so explicitly clear to everyone.
Who was responsible?
Yeah, you know, like everything led to this one person. And, you know, I spoke about like trying to gain as much work experience as possible, you know, between Onia and Helmut and doing smaller versus corporate versus this was tech, startup and different. This was the experience that taught me exactly not how not to run a business. And, you know, I told you I was studying for the GMAT when I got the Fyre call, and this is probably like 2 years prior to at that point. And the idea of business school was so stupid to me at the time because I'm like, there is no school, there is nothing that could teach you what I just learned.
Right.
It's impossible.
How long was this entire Fyre fiasco?
No, I don't know. I can't even tell you. It must have been 2016, 2017, 2+ years, 3. I can't even remember.
We gotta call your wife.
It's like PTSD. You gotta call my wife. You have to call my wife. My memory, yes.
Yeah, your walking memory.
Yeah, my walking memory. She's my memory bank, absolutely. But yeah, and it was difficult to bounce back after that.
And there was time in between Fyre and you founding Krost.
Yes. I don't know how long, maybe a year and a half. After Fyre, I was approached by another company called Hero or something. I'm not sure. They were Chicago based. I remember flying to Chicago and they put an offer in front of me and it was like a very high 6-figure equity. And they're like, we want you to replicate what you did for Fyre Media with this company. And I remember having a lot of difficulty with making a decision as to whether I want to take it or not. And I had called so many mentors of mine. I spoke with my parents, spoke with my father, and I remember, you know, like my dad, like I said earlier, he like really, he works with his hands, right? So when it comes to business, like it's not so much that like we talk about, but he was the one who helped me make a decision. He said, take the salary out of it. Would you take the job? I said, absolutely not. He was like, there's your answer. And I didn't do it. I just don't think I wanted anything to do with like what I was doing at Fyre Media at that time. And yeah, the full circle moment for me came when it was like, I want to build a fashion company. Sorry.
Yet another character that wants to get in the podcast. It's still
Yeah.
there. It's still around you. Kish it, like.
It's okay. It's gone. It's on me.
Okay, I think you got it off.
Oh man.
Ooh, Lee likes you.
Okay, it's okay.
Pretty flattering.
I get distracted.
What the hell? You won't get up right there. Kill it on your knee. On your knee. Kill it. Nice.
Wow.
Nice. Pretty good.
Yeah, not bad.
Get it off the couch. I don't want it to be in the frame. In that 1 year, year and a half after Fyre, before Krost, you ultimately made the decision to start your own fashion brand, but you got back into the fashion world, right? You didn't want to stay in the tech world, in the bookings, or like what do you call it?
I think after that, I knew I wanted to work for myself, and the one thing that I think subconsciously knew my entire life was that I wanted to have my own fashion company, apparel company. That's what I subconsciously, I think, knew, and I think all of these experiences that I had kind of gave me that full circle moment of saying, I'm going to do this and I can do it myself.
How do you start a fashion company from scratch and
Yeah,
grow it to
great
the
question.
point where it's a multi-million-dollar company with a brand that's recognizable in, many corners of the earth?
It's a good question. I think I'm a believer that an idea is 1% of it. I think the difference is people who can bring an idea to life. And I think that is one of my skill sets, is bringing ideas to life. I had surrounded myself throughout college with a lot of mentors. I asked a lot of questions. I had a concept. I had an idea. I created a business plan. And I think that ultimately, I raised a little bit of money in the beginning, and it was people more so betting on me than they were betting on the idea. And I launched it out of my apartment in New York City for the first 2 years.
How do you set yourself apart? Like, what's special about the fashion brand Krost versus any other already established huge player in the field?
Yeah, I thought that I had specific unfair advantages with access to talent that I thought was going to be able to take you to a certain place. But I don't, that's the question I should have really had a better answer for, because working at a fashion company for 4 years is one thing. And like I said earlier, I thought I knew everything that went into it. I had no idea. And the biggest issue that I made, or the biggest mistake that I made when launching, is I had never made a piece of product myself. I had no production experience.
You were in sales.
I never went to the factories. I never sourced the fabrics. I never dealt with tech packs and specking and every single piece that goes into the making of a garment. I had never done that. So I started with production in LA because we were launching basics at the time. And that was even a nightmare because of how much I was like traveling back and forth multiple times a month, and how much money it would cost to do so, and how much production cost at that time. And I think the first person I hired was like my 3PL. So I had warehousing, fulfillment, I had customer service, I had contracted a branding agency at the beginning to work through my like logo and identity and my color story. And I had one person at the time that was helping with design, and I was doing everything in between. And we kind of built these concept stores, with the release of every collection, and we launched, and then COVID happened.
So before we get to COVID, you have a different, like a bit of a unique spin on the fashion industry. You launched with "Support Your Friends," which is something.
Launched with a slogan.
Right.
I launched as a philanthropic brand. I launched with the concept of increasing awareness surrounding different social causes with each collection that we released.
Which is different, by the way. You don't see most fashion brands doing that, at least back then. Maybe today a little bit more, but I think you pioneered that in a way.
Yeah, that was the angle behind the story of the brand itself, and we were able to donate a significant amount of money to the organizations that we worked with. And just using that to jump into COVID, it did work for us during COVID, right? We were busier than ever during COVID, besides the production nightmares, but how many different organizations and people needed help during COVID. We were a good voice at that time.
Why did you launch with that mindset of supporting causes and giving back?
Because that's the world that I grew up in. I grew up with a mother and a father who are involved in every organization. I grew up in a community that's DNA is rooted in giving back and supporting. And I wasn't able to answer that question as clearly as I am now because I think I was just in it, but it was another subconscious thought. And then I kind of had this aha moment, actually on like one of these podcasts, I believe. You're really bringing back all my memory for me. Thank you.
Well, I guess I could be your new walking memory.
And that's what it was. Like that is my DNA. That is a community DNA. That is the DNA that my parents gave me. And that's why we wanted to support different organizations. The bigger mistake with that was difficult to give so much money away when you're not yet making money.
Definitely a consideration.
Yeah.
You launch a fashion brand from nothing. Take me into the day one, Like, what does it look like? You put a team together. You did all of this from scratch.
Yeah, there's no team. Yeah, it wasn't really a team in the beginning. We worked out of my apartment. I had different people help me with different things, of course. But for me, I don't have a specific, like I'm not Rene Roffet. I listen to, what do he call it? Soft skills, hard skills. I don't have hard skills. Like I still hover over people's computers when they're on Adobe. Say, no, move this and do that. My skill is I start any given day with production, and within an hour I'm in marketing, and then after that we're on a shoot, and then I'm coming back and dealing with operations and finance and every other department within this business. And that's where I think that my skill set is more on the execution side of things, just being able to do a lot in one day.
Did you struggle in the beginning when first starting the business with turning a profit?
Yeah. Because we gave so much away,
It's a good problem to have.
It was, but it's a very expensive business to run. It costs a lot of money to do a lot of things. And growing an online business is difficult, but our growth really came when we were contacted by FILA. We had done 7 different collaborations with FILA, and they were paying us a lot of money to do the collaborations. And I just looked at my job as executing on the collaboration. If they gave me, $250,000 for the collection, my job was try to launch everything for $50,000 and keep the $200,000 as profit. Those collaborations led to other collaborations, which led us into different licensing opportunities, which got us into the wholesale business, and everything has been part of a journey of growing the business, the top line of the business. The issue is it's still just a very expensive business to run. And I think every part of the journey has taught us a lot about what we can do with the business, and continue to refine our strategy.
Guys, there's a very good chance you found out about Momentum through Kosher Media. These guys are the premier advertisers throughout Jewish communities all over the world. Let me just tell you something. Momentum currently has however many thousands of listeners per episode. David and the Kosher Media team have been helping me expand my reach for over a year now. They have dozens of Instagram accounts with hundreds of thousands of followers, tens of thousands of contacts for email and text blasts, WhatsApp chats like there's no tomorrow. I mean, the list goes on. Whatever it is you're trying to advertise, a product, a service, a podcast, anything at all, call Kosher Media. It's an amazing experience working with them, and I promise you, you will not regret it. Guys, koshermedia.com. It's that simple, koshermedia.com. Tell David I sent you, and let's get back to the episode. Take me into the growth of Krost. But what I mean by that is one day you're not a startup, but you're a startup. You're a clothing, apparel, fashion startup, a new brand. And then today, if you look at where you guys are, New York, Paris, and, you're not just confined to one brand, to one line, to whatever it might be, and just the success. I'm not in the fashion industry, so it's a little hard for me to understand even, but I'm sure it's even bigger than I imagined.
Well, you spoke to a lot of successful people in the apparel space, in the schmata business.
The schmata business.
I still tell my team, like, welcome to the schmata business.
Love it.
It really is.
It really
pure
is.
Schmata. Maybe some of it looks nicer than the pure schmata, but you make money with the schmata stuff.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. It's tried and true. It's a tried and true industry.
It is.
But take me into growing the business. I mean, how do you scale?
Scaling is very difficult. Still working on it. I don't think that we're near the scale that I think that we can be, but I think that we have gotten ourselves. The business is going on 6 years. COVID happened in between. 2021 was, I think, the beginning of the collaborations, which led us into licensing, which, like I said, told you, led us into the wholesale game. And that's, every single year was just more and more experience, more and more industry knowledge. And then, to be 100% honest, and I'm sorry to maybe skip ahead to, the momentum moment, because I did my research as well. At the end of 2024, you mentioned that, you saw that we changed our logo. That was the end of 2020, well, the beginning of 2024, the team word for the year was focus. And the reality is, from 2021 to 3, it was kind of like the undergrad of like the startup. And I was like, I think that we're ready to graduate, and we need to focus, and we need to pick like what we're doing. And there was too many collaborations, and there was a lack of identity, a lack of who is Krost, what is Krost, who is the customer for Krost. It was me. It was my learning experience of, you can't be everything for everyone. You really can. And I thought I could. And I thought I could do so many different things at once. So you could collaborate with these big brands. I could take the license to another big brand. I could be making product that lives in, Saks Fifth Avenue, Neiman Marcus, and Nordstrom, but then I'm also making product that could go to TJ Maxx. You can't do everything at once. And I was looking at the numbers, and it was more of, you're doing it all, but you're not doing great in any of, the one specific, strategies that you have here. So there was almost maybe an ignorance or an arrogance to think that I could do everything at once, but it's not the reality, and the numbers were showing it. There wasn't scale in any one specific kind of a, revenue line. Thank you, vertical. So kind of had to like take a step back, made the decision, allow the licensing agreements to expire on their own, don't renew them. There's no more collaborations for at least the next 2 years, because what we're going to do is define what Krost is, right? We were philanthropic, we were unisex, we did menswear, we did women's wear, we did everything for everyone, but you were at the same time doing nothing for anyone. And that was my kind of like, I would say, momentum moment. And I said, the evolution of the brand really comes with my own personal evolution. It was also around the time that I was going to get married that all of this, thought started happening. It was like, I want to make product that I like, that I want to wear, that if I see people wearing, I'm excited about it. And I remember seeing somebody in the street wearing, a jacket that like, I loved that. I thought it was a great jacket. And it like made me proud, versus sometimes I would see people in the past wearing something and I was like embarrassed. Like, I can't believe I put that out. I can't believe I made that. Can't believe you put your name behind that. So that was the moment that I think things started actually doing, where things started to do better for us, and the business actually started to grow.
What does it look like when, you're a young guy, you recently started a company, and you're sort of overhauling the entire team to focus,
Yeah.
right? Like, I think it's easy to go through the motions and to just get by.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you had been doing that beforehand. You were getting by, you were doing collaborations, you were doing things that like seemed exciting. They,
Yeah.
on the surface looked like they were growing your business. And then after a little bit of reflection, you realized that you needed to focus. How do you mobilize a team like that?
Yeah, I think like as the founder, you have to like have a sense of confidence in your vision, right? We run a very collaborative team. Everyone is in their position because like they're the best at that, and I can't do what they do. To be completely honest, I just can't. So you have to get everyone aligned with your vision, and you have to have confidence in the vision, and you have to be able to articulate your vision clearly. And there's underlying parts of our business and our story that remained consistent, right? The idea of delivering quality luxury product at a very accessible price point. In today's market, that's also helped us. Retail is tough right now. Luxury is down. So this, kind of space that the brand is positioning itself in, that I call contemporary, we're seeing like good success because we've had a lot of conviction with our positioning of how we want to position the brand in the market, from a retail price standpoint, from a product standpoint. So I think it's ultimately really just you have to be a good communicator, and you have to have conviction and confidence in your vision. And you cannot be afraid to change course if it's not working. If somebody's right and I'm wrong, like I love it. Like you're right, amazing, fantastic, no problem with being wrong. The first one to admit I was wrong if I made a wrong decision. There were a lot of decisions that I made in this business that were just wrong, and the team advised me otherwise, and I may have not listened, and they were just right. So, being agile and being able to change course if something isn't working and not having an ego about it is very important. And I think because we're a small team, because we're young, because we're agile, we can turn when we see something working, or we can turn when something's not working. And if there's an opportunity that we think that we should take, we can take it.
How big is your team?
Say 8 full-time and multiple independent contractors.
And at this point, you're, aside from directly from your website, and do you have any retail locations today?
Not our own flagship stores, no, God willing. But right now, the majority of the business is wholesale.
We can find your pieces and your brand at retailers across the country.
Yeah.
Saks, Nordstrom,
Bloomingdale's,
tell me more.
Selfridges, internationally, and clothing, Selfridges, UK, Japan. Wholesale is primarily the focus. And then, similarly to some of the companies I worked with in the past, there's an off-price angle as well.
I was talking to a couple people before we sat down, and I said, I'm going to be talking to Samuel Krost tomorrow. What are you wondering about him?
Yeah.
What somebody asked me was that you have a very big presence in Paris. You're not confined to New York or America. Is that,
Yeah.
I don't know, and I'm asking naively, is that something that is, typical for a fashion brand?
I think if you're going to sell internationally, Paris is the city that market happens. So, people know about Fashion Week, right? Fashion Week is a facade for what's actually happening. For brands is like everyone, all the buyers of all this retail stores from around the world, literally around the world, come to buy. So while, fashion shows are happening, people are presenting their collections in showrooms.
Right.
So we go to Paris multiple times a year to sell our collection. Yes. I got married in Paris. My wife loves Paris. So we get to spend a lot of time in Paris together. So
Nice.
She's very happy.
That's great.
Yes.
That's the key, by the way.
That is the key.
I think that's the key to your
Yes.
success.
She definitely is. I told you, I said this momentum moment in terms of my focus, it had a lot to do with where I was in my life, and because of my wife. Everything just became a lot more focused when I met with my wife, what the priorities are, what is important in life, my wife, my family, my friends, and everything else at this point is really just noise. And I feel incredibly grateful for, the support that she's given me in continuing to, achieve this, goal and dream of mine.
Amazing, amazing. For people listening, young people who are inspired by what you do and might want to follow in the footsteps of what you've done in terms of starting a fashion company, what would you say to them?
Only do it if you really love it. It's not easy business. It's not. I know I didn't choose an easy one. It's very saturated. It's very competitive. There's a lot of brands out there. But you really have to love it. I live in an office. I'm constantly working. The industry doesn't really have time off. I'm always constantly already working, a year in advance. In our office is, next fall, winter, 2026. So it's not flexible. And I think it's difficult to make it, but I think that I absolutely love what I do. And I think that, growing up in this community, there's a lot of titans within real estate and a lot of titans within Shmata as well. A lot of people do this, and being able to surround myself and build relationships with mentors that I can really call and ask for advice and come into their office. And, that has given me the ability to continue pursuing this dream. But I don't think there's the fashion, there's the pretty part of it. And then, there's a lot of not so pretty parts, but I think that you truly have to love what you're doing to continue to work on this job.
So when we talk about passion, and loving what you do, there's like differing perspectives. People say that whatever you love, chase it. The thing you love the most, try to do that. There's some people that say stick to a steady job, a professional career. I think your parents had a good nuance over there with, when it comes to that. But what do you think about that? And if you're talking to a high school or college student, what are you advising them in terms of what they should go into relative to their passion, relative to what's going to make money?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's definitely tough right now, I would say. The world is changing so quickly, and I think it's only going to continue to change even more quickly. There's it's two ways, right? Like, there's entrepreneurs, and then there's the people that feel more comfortable with what's the word I'm looking for?
With risk?
No.
With stability.
Stability. Thank you. And you have to understand which one you are. My plan B is make plan A work. Like, I will not quit until it works. That's my personality. And that's why I think I'm like still able to do this, and because of the support of my family and my wife and friends. But then there's people that want stability. And then there's the world that's changing so fast, and, jobs that can be replaced by, different technological advancements that are happening in front of us right now. So, I don't know if that answered your question. Maybe you could repeat it for me.
The question was, what would you tell a young person to get into based on their hobbies and passions and what they love and what's going to make them money?
Yeah, I think I was raised I'm gonna throw your question back at you, unfortunately, but I was raised to love what you do, right? And feel like you've never worked a day in your life. But then there's so many moments on my own journey, and I'm like, is this realistic anymore? Like, I need to start making real money.
It's a nuanced approach that you've had, like your father told you, if you want to get into, what exactly is the type of oral surgery that he does? What's it called?
Oral, facial, maxillofacial surgery, everything neck up.
Got it. And your father told you that, if that's what you want to pursue, I can help you out, and
Yes.
and that's what he loves to do. He never feels like he's working. You looked at your life and didn't think that you would feel the same way. And similarly, when you had that job offer for that company after Fyre, your father said, "Would you do it if not for the salary?" And you said, "No." I think it's a very good approach. You've hired a lot of people. You've reviewed job applications, gone through interviews.
Yeah.
And a lot of young people, because in the fashion industry, in the fashion, like you're a young fashion brand, that's naturally who you attract. What do you notice in people who are, the top at their company or the top employees or team members? I know earlier you mentioned that you want to feel, you want it to be felt if you're leaving, right? Great. What else you have for us?
You either have it or you don't. You know what I mean? That's the way that I look at it with people who come into the business. And I'm just speaking about work ethic. I don't, when I look at people's resume, I don't look where they went to school. I don't really care where they went to school. I don't really care what their GPA is. You could come in and you can either have it or you just don't. And that's what I meant when saying like invaluable. I think hard work beats talent. I believe that through and through. And that's really all I look for is work ethic. Like I was raised with a father who has incredible work ethic, a family that has incredible work ethic. And people who are not, like I said earlier, not afraid to get their hands dirty. If we're on set, like I'm steaming, I'm like carrying things around. I'm the one, the team will laugh, but like I'm cleaning the office. I don't care what you want my title, what your title is, or I don't have interest. Maybe one day I tell the team, God willing, will be so big that, there's HR and this and positions and organizational chart, but like when that time comes, like those people can work in a different office and like we're gonna stay here because like this is just the way in which I operate, and it's get your hands dirty and do what needs to be done. So that's really all I look for.
To shift to giving back for a second,
Yeah,
and to getting involved in causes and philanthropy as a whole. A lot of people have the perspective of do it when you can, but focus on business first or something like that. You didn't do that. You made it a part of your business, a part of your identity from day one, even when you were not necessarily able to. You didn't really have the luxury to. You told me earlier that the business was struggling because you were giving away too much, right? And or that was at least part of the reason. I find that very interesting. What do you think is the right perspective?
Life is about what you can do for others. I think, like I said earlier, the DNA of growing up in this house or growing up in this community is to give back. I think COVID was a time that I came to the realization that it's not about how much money you have in regards to giving back. You could give back in so many different ways. So I think that you should always have chesed and giving back as part of your everyday life, and give back in whichever way you can. People are put in different positions. Some may be in a position that they do it financially, and anyone can do it by giving of their time. And that's these titans of our community. I could call them and ask them for advice, and they'll welcome me into their office, and I know what my day is like sometimes, and then when I'm like at their office, I'm just like, I can't believe how much time this guy is giving me right now, and like no distractions. I'm just like, I know if a kid was in my office right now, like I'd want to like rip his head off, and like I need to get on with what's happening today. But
what about if a kid's in your backyard?
This is giving back. Amazing, the easiest thing in the entire world for anybody to do, right? So I think giving back, that's the DNA.
You mentioned earlier that you don't really have hard skills. That's what you told me, right?
Yeah.
And you'll be looking over the shoulder of somebody who's using a particular software,
Yes.
and
Facts.
and admiring
Correct.
how they do it while not being able to do it yourself.
Yes.
What's the most useful thing that people can learn to complement your skill set, which lacks those hard skills?
I think the only thing people should be learning is just AI.
Right.
That was like the
Double
one
down
answer I
on
wanted to
AI.
give you, but it's like, yeah, I use it all day. Any question that I have, I'm using it. We're trying to get it to help with like more content, but I don't think it's not fully there yet. But there are a lot of parts of our business that I'm having conversations with people that I hope could be automated by AI. Yeah, and you would be ignorant not to be focusing on AI and understanding how it's going to make your life and job more efficient. Editing this video,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
you know, it's not going to be you
It
anymore.
will be used for sure. It's already.
It's already happening. So
Right. The funny
just
part is
some,
that
you know,
right now it's complementing the skill sets of humans.
yeah,
It's going to replace them very soon.
soon. I hope, you know, with certain parts of our business, absolutely. But I know video editors, like, they're nervous about it. You know, we were like shooting a campaign and I put the flats of our collection in and I was speaking about the concept that we had, and, you know, it shot out like decent enough images to give me like a storyboard, you know, that was used on set to say, oh, this is like the flow of the day and this is what the campaign is going to be and these are the locations, and gave you a sense of like what we were going to do. Soon enough, I'm gonna be able to put in like just the CAD and it's gonna spit out, and that's a big part of the, you know, operating expense of the business, you know. So yeah, I guess the right answer to your question is be on top of AI.
To close up, I guess it's cool to hear about your story. Very unique in terms of the community, right? And the brand that Krost is, you know, and like your name now carries not only in the community, which is, you know, your parents have built a great legacy, but also your name in the context of the fashion industry, you know, in the broader world, has built up a brand, and that's something I admire about you, and
Thank
I
you.
hope we got the juices flowing, you know.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope it's interesting.
A lot of memories came to you that
I did. You helped get it out.
good.
I admit. But
When you spend 2 hours just like,
yeah.
you know, on a retrospective trip, then that's what it is. you
Yeah.
know?
Well, I feel honored that you thought of me for the opportunity, and thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
That wraps up this episode with Samuel Krost. Guys, I hope you enjoyed it. As always, here are my top 3 takeaways from our conversation. First, you gotta be constantly building your network. By the time Samuel was 20 years old, his network was so strong that Andrew Rosen personally called to offer him a job at a multi-billion-dollar company. Oh, and when he was 21, Ja Rule called him asking to work with him. These types of opportunities don't just come knocking on your door unless you're consistently building your network. Second, seek out as much exposure as possible. Sammy didn't stick to one lane. In college, he immersed himself in every part of the fashion business: sales, merchandising, operations. Then, at Fyre Media, he saw the collision of celebrity talent, tech, social media, and even though not all of those things were directly related to fashion, the experiences that he was a part of broadened his perspective and shaped the way he approaches business today. Third, you don't have to follow the path set for you. Samuel comes from a family full of doctors. His grandfather, parents, uncles, and even his brothers are all in medicine. But he had the guts to go his own way, even when his father told him that he wouldn't really be able to help him out if he left the family profession. That decision defined his career and ultimately led to the creation of Krost. If you're still here, guys, comment fearless down below so I know you made it this far. And if you enjoyed this episode, which I hope you did, considering that you're at the end of it, you're going to love my conversation with Sal Batesh. Sal is the founder of FILA Media, and you can think of them kind of like Warner Brothers for TikTok and Instagram. They create viral short-form content that's brought in nearly 1 billion views last year. Guys, you can find that episode wherever you get your podcast. Search up Momentum Sal Batesh or click the link in the show notes. Before we go, a reminder from our amazing sponsor, Advanced Solar Solutions. Federal solar incentives expire at the end of the year, December 31st. Don't miss out on $0 down, a locked-in low monthly rate, and even a new roof on them. Every project is backed by a 30-year third-party insurance plan covering parts, labor, roof leaks. You know the drill. 20% of profits go to support people learning in Kollel. Guys, it's too good to be true, but it's not. It's real. Lock in your savings. Just text a photo of your electric bill to 347-455-8430 today. Thank you for watching. See you next time.